And we are back. NFL Week 3 Power Rankings. Starting out at number 32 is going to be the Carolina Panthers, who will be staying the same. They end up losing to the Chargers 26-3. They end up doing a few things, besides scoring 3 points and being outscored, 47 plus 26, 73 to 13 or whatever in 2 games. They benched their former number 1 overall pick from last year, so, that's insane that you're willing to bench that dude already in favor of Andy Dalton, which, respect to Andy Dalton, he's been around the block now, since failing in Cincinnati. But let's just be honest, the Panthers suck. There's no, light at the end of the tunnel, at least this year with them, besides potentially having that first overall pick again. At number 31 is going to be the Giants, staying the same. They end up losing their game 21-18 to Commanders, which doesn't look horrible on paper if it wasn't for the fact that, they lost by 7 field goals. The Commanders failed to score a single touchdown, setting a new NFL record, 7 field goals. In one game winning. And with that being said, that's pretty much the nail in the coffin for the Giants season as well, is the fact that the Falcons lost by 6 field goals last week, and it's only week 2, and you are already able to one-up them, is pretty much a sign to just hang it up. And, same thing as the Panthers. You get to look forward to having an early draft pick, it looks like. So, probably a new quarterback for you. At number 30, we have the Broncos going down free spot. The Broncos, they ended up losing their game to the Pittsburgh Steelers 13-6. Now, Bo Nix has not looked good at all. To be fair, none of the rookie quarterbacks have. But Bo Nix, he scored 1 touchdown, I believe, in 2 games. And I don't even remember if it was him who scored it or if it was a rushing touchdown. So, they're at least doing well, because both games they have played, they have lost by 1 score. So, they at least can say they're keeping the games close. However, it doesn't really mean anything when you're still losing those games. At number 29, we have the Titans going down a spot. They ended up losing yet again 24-17. This time, however, to the Jets. This time, however, they didn't lose by not allowing a single offensive touchdown. Now, the Titans don't look horrible on paper. It's just the sheer fact that they have done this twice in a row now, where they've scored 17 points, the other team scored 24, and they've lost. And they haven't really been that competitive. It's kind of the same thing with the Broncos, who I just mentioned, where they're not. The score's close, but at the same time, it's not really close. You should have won against the Bears, and you should have lost against the Jets, and yet you lost against the Bears in clown show fashion. So, yeah. At number 28, we have the Colts setting the record for this week. You might hear my cat in the background. Hi, JJ. I'm going to be moving them down 16 spots. They lost 16-10 to the Green Bay Packers with Malik Willis at the quarterback. Now, that wouldn't be so bad if it wasn't for Malik Willis. Jordan Love is a whole different story, because going into that game, you should have known that Green Bay was going to run that football. And they did. 14 pass attempts by Malik Willis. 122 passing yards, so, not a lot there either. And only 1 passing touchdown. Josh Jacobs destroyed you guys with 150 yards. That's why you're going down so much, is because you knew how limited Green Bay would be going into that game, and you still lost somehow. Tying the Colts is going to be the Rams, who are going to be going down 16 spots as well. They end up losing to the Cardinals 41-10. The Cardinals finally figured out Marvin Harrison Jr. was on the team. And, well, they basically never looked back after, getting it to Marvin Harrison Jr. those 2 times. The Rams just have not looked good. It looks like Puka Nacua is a very vital part of that offense. Looks like they're going to be missing him because, they went from keeping it to a 1-score game, losing in overtime, to one of the best teams in the league in the lines, to getting destroyed by nearly 4 scores. Or, excuse me, it is 4 scores, nearly 5 scores by a bottom-tier team, in my opinion. I don't understand how you do that. Especially if you're a team like the Rams, who looked so dominant last season. 26 is the Commanders. They're going up 4 spots. They picked up their win, 21-18 over the Giants, as we talked about a little bit ago. They looked pretty good in that game. However, I hate to discredit them, but it is the Giants, so you can't really take too much praise. I think they can be a really good team in the coming years. I think Jaden Daniels is already looking like the best quarterback out of this class, which unfortunately isn't saying a lot, considering how the other 2 starters have played. But I do think the Commanders will win a few games this year. Obviously, they're not going to be competing for a playoff spot. However, I think they are going to potentially up their win total. I think they're going to be hovering around the same win total of 4 to 5. With, in my opinion, 6 being the absolute peak. 25. We have the Jaguars going down 7 spots. Going into the season, was so high in the Jaguars. They only got better, it looked like, with Gabe Davis and Brian Thomas Jr., who, by the way, he has played amazing. He is already looking like he could be a Rookie of the Year candidate. But it doesn't mean anything, it looks like, because, Trevor Lawrence does not look like he should be getting paid $55 million a year and being tied for the highest paid quarterback in the league. Or, excuse me, once highest paid quarterback in the league. Forgot about Dak Prescott for a second. I think the Jags still have a great chance. You look at that division they're in, where there's 3 teams right now who are 0-2. And I feel like that's a potential great way to get 4 wins just easily, is farming the Colts and Titans, it looks like. 24, we have the Browns. They're going to be going up a spot. Let's talk about this game. The Browns are being kept alive by their defense. There's no denying that. They obviously, went against a very good team in the Cowboys last week. But they won 18-13 with Deshaun Watson looking like absolute horse shit again. It just shows how good the Browns defense is. To know no matter who their starting quarterback is, they're able to stay in the game. And I think it's probably in the best interest of the Browns to probably give Jameis Winston the start. I know you're trying to justify Deshaun Watson now averaging, it's like $64 million a year since he took that, what's it called? Restructured contract. But I don't think it's, going to work. I think you're just going to have to cut your losses early on in the season and try and salvage what you still can. Because you have a great roster, and Jameis Winston is most definitely a serviceable quarterback. Number 23, we have the Bears down 7 spots. They kind of had what was coming to them. The Bears had to score points on offense, and they weren't able to. They only put up 13 They did a great job holding the Texans to only 19 points, however. It just wasn't enough. And because of that, I'm going to be moving you down because your offense is, no matter how, much praise Caleb Williams got in college, he's not looking like he is transitioning well into the NFL. It doesn't help that Keenan Allen did miss the game and Rome Odunze did play while injured. But at the same time, you still have a great offense outside of that with Cole Kmet, DeAndre Swift, Khalil Herbert, and DJ Moore, just to name a few guys. So I think Caleb Williams has enough weapons, even if one of them is injured, that he should be doing well, and he just isn't. 22, we have the Cardinals going up 4 spots. They dominated. 41-10 against the Rams. They blew them out of the water. And it looks like the Cardinals could be that next great team. Underdog team. Because Kyler Murray, he played amazing. Marvin Harrison Jr. looking like he's, emerged. It only took him 1 week of rust to kind of emerge into that, I'm a top receiver conversation. Not even like rookie of the year conversation. We're talking about one of the best receivers. And I do think that for the Cardinals, they do have a chance because, fortunately for them, they are in the NFC. And, not trying to be mean to the NFC, but compared to the AFC, you guys are like a whole different league. Like, in a bad way. So, yeah. 21, we have the Raiders. They're going to be going up 8 spots. Now, I want to make this very clear. And same thing with the Cardinals. Just because you won and you beat a team who I'm very high on, with the Ravens and the Rams, it doesn't necessarily automatically put you into the elite category. You're going to have to still work your way up. Because any given Sunday, upsets can happen. However, what we need to talk about is why I'm moving you guys up. Is because of how well you played. The Raiders, you look at how dominant they were against the Ravens. They were hanging in that whole time with a team who was a big toe, away from winning last week against one of the best teams I think we've ever seen. And to be able to, beat them really says a lot about the Raiders. And unfortunately, I just don't think they're going to really do anything beyond this point. And I will gladly eat my words. They could pull a New Orleans Saints where they beat the Panthers by it's kind of the same story except with, a different start. Where you beat the Rockers off a bad team, so it's like, oh, that's just normal. And then you do what you do against a good team, and it's like, oh, maybe you guys are good. So, there's a very good chance that the Raiders start tearing people up, and Gardner Minshew is that guy, so who knows. Number 20, it just revealed 19, I'm sorry. It's the Dolphins going down 10 spots. Let's just be honest. If Tua is not playing, they are screwed. I don't care who their quarterback is. Oh, they signed Pro Bowl quarterback Tyler Huntley. I don't care. They're screwed if Tua is not playing. And they might be screwed if Tua plays because, this man has suffered more concussions than a lot of people have in their whole life in the span of 2 years. So, yes, the Dolphins, they have one of the best rosters. I don't want to say one of the best coaches because I feel like he's very good but very limited. That kind of keeps him in the above average but not in the Andy Reid kind of Dan Campbell tier. He's always going to kind of be below them by a significant margin. No matter how good they may be, they're always going to have a weakness at quarterback. Not because it's a bad quarterback, it's just because he keeps getting hurt, unfortunately. So, because of that, I'm going to move him down here, down at 20, because I don't expect him to do a lot in these coming weeks. With, Tua probably going to be afraid to scramble for a bit. And if you have to rely on Skylar Thompson or Snoop Huntley, I don't think that's going to work. Speaking of Snoop Huntley, number 19, the Ravens going down 12 spots. He was just signed off their practice squad. How? Like I said, any given Sunday, I was talking to my mom about this before this game even happened. The Raiders are just one of those teams that seem to do so well against good teams. Even if it does result in a loss, they always hang in there until the bitter end. And that's what they did. However, they prevailed this time with the W. And what we need to be talking about, however, is the Ravens now. You went from barely losing to the Chiefs, one of the best teams in the league, to losing to one of the worst teams in the league in very similar fashion. It wasn't like you got blown out by the Chiefs and barely lost to the Raiders. It was you barely lost to both teams. One play could have made the difference in both games. So I think we do need to be talking about the Ravens potentially not having a great team, because you're looking at the players who left them this offseason doing so well in J.K. Dobbins and kind of the guys they have now who they went out and spent, increasing amounts of money on, and Derrick Henry not really doing very well. Looks like they just made the bad roster moves. Number 18 is the Bengals going down a spot. The Bengals definitely improved off of last week, all right? We know the Bengals struggle week 1 every year. It's no surprise. However, the different story is against the Chiefs. They always seem to do well. They kept it to one score with Jake Browning as the quarterback last year. And I think that needs to be talked about because they went into, Arrowhead, I think. I don't know if it was home or away. I can quickly check. Yeah, it was at Arrowhead. And they lost by 1 point on a game-winning field goal. I mean, I think the Bengals are going to have an uphill battle because, like I was talking about with the I don't remember what team, but the NFC. The Bengals playing the AFC, a significantly harder conference with significantly harder teams. And unfortunately for the Bengals, they play in arguably the hardest division as well. And starting out 0-2 is not going to help you out. But you do have the Commanders this week, so I think if there's any opportunity to kind of get some momentum going, it's going to be against them. 17, we have the Patriots. They're going to be going up 6 spots. I was wrong about the Patriots. I was talking about the Bengals with last week. Now they always struggle week 1. I was thinking, it's just the Bengals, sucking that the Patriots won. But the Patriots were able to hold in with the Seahawks the whole time, losing in overtime. And I think we need to talk about that as well, because you think going into this season, the Patriots are going to be one of the worst teams in the league. They're not even starting their 3rd overall pick. They're starting a quarterback who is, like Jameis Winston, serviceable. He's not really a great starter, but he will win you games. You just don't expect, a Super Bowl or even a playoff appearance really out of him. But yet, here we are talking about the Patriots, 1-1. They look like they could be one of the better teams in the league, even though the players they have don't look like they would be. Maybe Jared Mayo is just that good of a coach, kind of might be looking like DeMeco Ryans, where you don't expect the team to do well, and yet somehow they do. So Patriots, 17. 16 is going to be the Falcons going up 8 spots. They got their win. 22-21 on Monday Night Football. It was a great win all around. They beat the Eagles, which says a lot, considering the Eagles are probably the best, or at least recently, have been the best, first half team. I believe, the past 2 seasons, they were the last undefeated team. And the Falcons just went ahead and beat them in week 2 after having an embarrassing loss week 1. And I think that speaks volume about the Falcons because they didn't let that awful week 1 game kind of deter them from, their season ending. Maybe they also lost that game because they were looking ahead to the Eagles and just skipped over the Steelers thinking they were going to be bad, when in reality the Steelers, rocked them. So, Falcons, I don't know how to feel about you guys yet because you lost 1 game, you won 1 game. You showed you did well 1 game, you did bad the other. And I feel like this Sunday Night Football game against the Chiefs is really going to tell us about the Falcons, if they're going to be good or bad. 15, we got Green Bay staying the same. What that game showed against the Colts was, even though Jordan Love wasn't playing, and even though Malik Willis, was very limited, I mean, he did well in what he had. However, they didn't give him a lot of chances. That Josh Jacobs week 1 was a fluke, because he turned up this game, 150 yards. And because of that, that was enough to propel the Packers to win 16-10. And I think Green Bay, like I said, they have a kind of easy schedule going on right now with the Titans now. And then I believe they have the Cardinals and Rams the next two after. I don't know exactly which order it is. I think Jordan Love will probably miss this game against the Titans, but I do expect him to potentially be back by week 4. So I think Green Bay is in a great situation. Number 14 is going to be the Eagles. They're going to be going down 11 spots. Well, you embarrassed yourselves on Monday Night Football. Saquon Barkley had that game for you. If he would have caught that football, you guys would have won that game, and we're talking about a whole different story right now. But he didn't. And, well, that's going to plague you guys. So, because of that, I am going to drop you a lot, because with how the Falcons played last week and how you guys played last week, this game shouldn't have even been close if, both teams would have carried over. However, it just feels like the Falcons got better while you guys got worse. And I think that's finally coming to show that, the Eagles are a very limited team when you think about it. We also have to remember they were without A.J. Brown. That Jason Kelce was really a key part of that team, because Saquon Barkley, as far as I saw, didn't have the best game, especially compared to how he did last week. And, the tush-push, albeit still OP as hell, NFL, if you happen to see this video, please ban it. I don't care how many times you tweak it. It should not be in the game. I think at the end of the day, the Eagles will be fine. However, I don't know how fine. Because, like I said, I feel like they're starting to get exposed. No matter how OP their team may look, I feel like it's the same thing with Mike McDaniel. Nick Sirianni, as good of a coach he is, I don't think he'll ever be in that tier with, the best of the best. I think he'll always be kind of a tier below. And that tier below, even though it's only one tier down, there's like a huge gap. It's like a VIP club, Very hard to get into. 13, we have the Steelers up 7 spots. They don't look amazing on offense, but their defense is keeping them alive. 13-6 win over the Broncos. They've so far scored 31 points through 2 games, which is averaging about 15.5, which is not a lot. However, they've also only allowed 16, so they're pretty much doubling their opponent's score. Even though it's not a lot, they're still winning those games. And it's because, like I said, they're averaging, the defense is averaging, 8 points a game or something? So that is top tier by the defense. And I think that will be what either propels the Steelers above everyone else or kind of lowers them. It's going to depend on how fast the Steelers offense can kind of get into a groove, because I don't think you're going to be able to win by scoring 13 or 18 points every single week, no matter how good your defense is. So I think that offense is going to have to get into a rhythm to score more points, at least 20. Let's take baby steps. And until then, I'm not going to be sold on the Steelers. Because all they are is, a team getting past that defense. And they will be screwed, it looks like. Number 12 is going to be the Jets. They're going to be going up 2 spots. They got a nice win, 24-17 against the Titans. However, they didn't look very good. And this could be because Aaron Rodgers did miss nearly a whole year of football with, being injured 4 plays into last season. Still probably having a lot of rust on him. But, that offense is starting to come together. They did certainly better than they did last week in both sides of the ball, offense and defense. And I think that's only going to get better for them. Plus, it looks like they have kind of a very hidden gem kind of player in Braylon Allen, who kind of did amazing last week. And Breece Hall, even though he had an underwhelming, time, maybe Braylon Allen gets more looks, and we kind of have a 1-2 combo with those two guys. Number 11 is going to be the Seahawks. They're going to just miss the top 10, going up 2 spots. And that has to do with who they played. Right, they played the Broncos week 1, who are 0-2, and they played the Patriots week 2, who I'm starting to give my flowers to. However, I'm still not convinced on the Patriots. So, the Seahawks, albeit 2-0, albeit scoring, good points and winning these games, haven't beat anyone, who, opens my eyes. Yes, I do believe the Seahawks are a good team. And I do believe they will be competing for a playoff spot come January. But at the time being, I'm not sold on them being a top-tier team. I'm sold on them being a middle-of-the-pack team who's going to hang with both good and bad teams, but they're never going to separate themselves. They're always going to have these kind of close games, no matter how good or bad the opponent looks. And I think that's going to be what puts the middle of the pack, is the fact that they're going to barely beat the good or barely beat the bad teams and then barely lose to the good teams. Is they kind of play themselves into these tough games. Number 10 is going to be the Cowboys. I'd be grateful you're even up this high, Cowboys. Down 5 spots. What was it, 44-19 or something like that against the Saints? The Saints look like they are one of the best teams in the league. They look like they could be number 1. They've dropped 40 points while holding their opponents to less than 20 both weeks. And I originally thought about the Saints. It was a fluke because it was the Panthers. Now that we're talking about them, the Cowboys, they're the real deal in my opinion. That's hence why, even with that embarrassing loss, I have them at 10. So Cowboys, I would say keep your head up. Because it's early on in the season. This is where these kind of games can happen, is early on, where teams are still trying to figure out their identity and trying to figure out, the other teams as well. So I think if you're going to lose games, it's best to be early on while, there's still time to catch up. Because if you start losing towards the end, then you kind of start falling. And there's less games to play, so less times to make opportunities, while other teams potentially will only get better. I think if you're going to lose games, it has to be early on. And, Cowboys, this hopefully will be your embarrassing loss of the season. So, this way you can avoid it. And only I say hopefully, I really have no ties to this team. Get better. Number 9 is going to be the Chargers, up 2 spots. I did not think 2 weeks. If you would have told me at the beginning of the season the Chargers would be a top 10 team, I would have believed it to an extent because, Jim Harbaugh does have NFL experience, although it was, a significant while ago. And they do have one of the best young quarterbacks in the league. I would have believed it to an extent, but not in the way that they've done. Yeah, you look at them, 22-10 against the Raiders and 26-3 against the Panthers. As much as I praised the Raiders earlier, I don't think they're a great team. So the Chargers are kind of like the Seahawks, where they haven't beat anyone spectacular. They kind of just beat a bunch of bottom-of-the-barrel teams. However, what separates them from the Seahawks, what I was saying earlier, is they've actually beaten them by multiple scores. Right, they won by 23 points against the Panthers, although that's not really an accomplishment. And then they beat the Raiders by 12 points, while holding up to 10, which is pretty impressive. So I think the Chargers kind of have a very similar offense, with the Seahawks, where the Seahawks, except kind of opposites, where the Seahawks kind of have a mid quarterback and a bunch of good talent around it, while the Chargers are the opposite, with a good quarterback and a bunch of mid guys around it. However, the Chargers have a significantly better defense, which is why I am giving them the nod over the Seahawks and even the Cowboys. Because, well, the Chargers didn't lose week 2 by 25 points. Number 8 is the 49ers, down 6 spots. Number 7 is the Vikings, up 12 spots. The reason I'm doing both of these at the same time is because they played each other, where the Vikings won 23-17. I think what we need to talk about is the fact that for a majority of that game, it was the Minnesota Vikings. The 49ers got a garbage time field goal to make it a 1-score game, so it was really almost a 2-score game, where Justin Jefferson, 97-yard touchdown. Sam Darnold, I mean, it does help that he was with San Francisco last year, so he did know the offense pretty well. Maybe that helped out a bit. So that's why I'm not totally convinced that the 49ers should go down. However, I'm convinced the Vikings deserve to go up, obviously. It's because it's the 49ers. Even if Sam Darnold knew that offense, beating the 49ers is no easy task, and they did that with relative ease. And I think, going into these next coming weeks, we're going to kind of see Sam Darnold hopefully submit or solidify himself as a starting quarterback in this league. Or, he might do what he normally does, where he kind of fades back into, human, where he's not that good. Number 6 is the Saints, up 16 spots. I'm sorry, Saints. This is my verbal apology. I was wrong about you guys last week. I thought you guys were going to win. I ended up being right. However, I went on to say that it didn't really mean a lot because it was the Panthers. And I want to apologize because I don't think the Cowboys are like the Panthers. I think the Cowboys are a great team. That's why I still have them ranked in the top 10 even after that loss. And I think you guys are truly a legit team. I mean, somehow Derek Carr is having a career year. I don't remember the name. It's like Cade Klubnik or Klubinak, something like that. Sorry if I, butchered it. But he has turned this team around, and they are looking scary. I mean, I'm really liking this kind of two-headed monster in the NFC South between the Buccaneers and Saints. It's looking like kind of the Tom Brady, Drew Brees for the, 1-2 years we had it. And, I really am excited to see what this Saints offense and defense can do, in these next coming weeks. Number 5, we have Detroit. They're going to be going down a spot. They lost. It was a very sad loss, 20-16. However, there were a lot of bright spots. I was very high in the Buccaneers, still am. I even picked the Buccaneers to win that game going in. And we kind of saw the Lions going against one of the best teams. This was, a duel between two of the best teams in the league. And the Lions just happened to fall just short. What we did see from the Lions, though, was them go for it on 4th down from about their own 20-yard line. And they got it, which really shows that they will, fight. No matter how ridiculous it may seem, they will fight. They will do whatever it takes. And even though they fell short, they still gave it their all. So, I respect the Lions after that game, even with the loss. So, yeah. Number 4 is the Texans up 2 spots. They played amazing. 19-13. Their defense did their job. Their offense was not as good as it, was week 1. However, they still got the job done. And I think a lot of it came down to Joe Mixon kind of having that amazing week 1 and then subpar week 2. However, even with, that kind of change in pace, they were still able to get the job done. And against the Chicago Bears defense, who is one of the best. So, I mean, no complaints here about only putting up 19 points. A win is a win. Number 3 is the Bills going up 6 spots. I mean, they proved themselves with that win over the Dolphins. Even though Tua got hurt, it was kind of late into the game. It was already after Tua threw 3 interceptions. So it's not like we can say they only beat them because Tua didn't play. Tua played the majority of that game. And it was still a runaway game while Tua was in there. It wasn't like they kind of piled on points while he was out. They played the Dolphins while they were at their the Dolphins were at their strongest, and they mollywopped them. I think the Bills have potential to be the best team in the league, not one of the best. It's ultimately going to depend on how these coming week, not just the coming weeks. I think this is going to kind of be a second half team. Yes, they're doing well now. They did last year, but they kind of fell apart towards the end of last year, kind of in that middle section. And I think the Bills are going to be talked about as kind of one of the best come, the halfway mark. And I think the second half is really going to be where the Bills have a chance to, solidify themselves. Number 2 is the Buccaneers, who go up 6 spots. They beat the Lions. I mean, that's a great win in itself. I think they're one of the best teams in the league, obviously at number 2. And I am really surprised at that, honestly. Because we saw last year how well they did. I thought they were going to kind of improve, but not jump to kind of, we're going to be competing for a Super Bowl. I thought they were going to kind of be in that same tier as last year, just with more regular season wins, where we're one of the best teams in the league. We might make a playoff run, however, I would not bank on it. Now they're looking like they could win the whole entire NFC. And I'm not surprised that they will, because Baker Mayfield is looking like the early season MVP. And Chris Godwin and Mike Evans are making an amazing duo, because one of them looks like Mike Evans got locked up that week. Chris Godwin balled out. And I feel like only, the same will come, where if Chris Godwin gets locked up, Mike Evans will ball out. So I feel like they have one of the best 1-2 combos all time, honestly. And, I think that they will, by January, be making a case for that 1 seed. And number 1, I said it last week, it's the same thing. It's the Chiefs. I'm not going to drop them unless they lose. Right? Yes, they struggled against Cincinnati. They barely pulled out the win. They probably shouldn't have won that game, but yet here we are. They did. And I think what we're going to be talking about the Chiefs is Cincinnati looked like their old selves there, where they, were not in early season fashion. They were in late season fashion, where they are winning these games no matter how tough the opponent is. And the Chiefs, I feel like that showed a lot. That week 1 and 2, they were able to beat coming into the season, 2 of the best looking teams. And it sucks for the Chiefs that, they're doing so well that they're getting slated with the hardest gauntlet to open up, with now having to play the Falcons, who look like they could be, one of the best teams, who just struggled week 1. So, I don't know. I mean, I think we will be looking at a three-peat, but that's just me. But that is going to do it. I hope you guys did enjoy. I had a good time. And the next time, I will be doing predictions for week 3, covering all 16 of the games. Going over the playoff picture, albeit way too early. But yeah, see you guys next time. Goodbye. Hope you enjoyed.